So on the table you can see that I'm going to be using the Sennelier oil pastel pad. There's some baby wipes, cotton buds and various colour shapers and brushes and blending tools and a palette knife. So that's just some of the equipment that I'm using. Here is the oil pastels. I believe I've got the Caran d'Ache, the Mungyo and the Arteco and some Montmartre possibly there. So they're the pastels I'm using. I won't use all of them. I'll use very few, in fact. It's just for different colours. But I start by putting in a horizon line for this particular picture. And then I'm just doing really a very brief drawing. There isn't much drawing to be done in this particular picture, but this is a church sitting in the background. Possibly I've done this a little bit bigger than it is right now. The pencil I'm using is an ordinary coloured pencil, black Prismacolor possibly. I'm drawing in some background tree shapes, and then I'm drawing two buttons, one big one on the right and a big little one joined to it on the left. Very little drawing in this. Over the back here I'm doing some more trees. Just basic outlines, no details whatsoever. This bit here is just the shape of the foreground grasses and a dividing line between the grasses and the path. And this is a foreground tree, literally just the shape of the trunk. So with that I'm ready to colour, and start off with the sky, a light colour at the bottom, a medium tone in the middle and just a very little bit of light darker blue. I just blend them all together. It'll probably take 2 layers to get this completely to where I want it to be, and I'm just going around the main shapes of the church, the tree and the background trees. So blend them with cotton, but starting with the light colour going up into the dark colours, and I will do this again afterwards. On this part I'm just layering over a layer of white just to bring them all together, and then laying over the colours on the top again. And once again blending with the cotton bud. This is a scene that I've done several times just for demonstration purposes. It's a bit quick on this video, but it obviously gives you the idea, and that was quite an easy picture to do, if I'm being honest, even though it looks quite complicated and detailed. Because it's a YouTube video, you have to try and compact it all into a shorter time. So looking at this being on a time lapse and the fact that it's already been on 6 minutes, you can see that it takes a little bit of time to do. Just take your time, and eventually you'll get there, and you'll have what you want rather than just a rushed version. Generally I would go quite a bit slower than this, it has to be said, but for the YouTube I just want to get the idea. So once again, just blending over with some white, just like putting a layer of white over the bottom parts of the sky, just to lighten them up a bit. Blending them very gently so that they don't mute themselves and you lose that whiteness and brightness. And then I will be putting a few white clouds on, just putting in a touch of colour to give them a tint of colour. As you can hopefully see, it's all becoming a little bit more opaque now, a little bit more brighter, and a little bit more smoother in its transition from the dark blue into the light blue of the sky. And hopefully it looks like a good background for sky. So here's the cloud. It doesn't necessarily have to be a sharpened crayon. Sorry, I say crayon, I mean oil pastel. It doesn't have to be sharpened. This is actually sharpened, it's just how it's ended up through plenty of colouring. So I'm just doing a twist in action, putting in some random clouds here and there. And there's a little bit of cream come yellow to put into them, just to give them a little bit of character. Just softly softening the bottoms of the main bulk of the cloud. And we'll probably just top it off with a little white highlight here and there. The reason I may change from one oil pastel to another is basically because of the softness and the layering qualities it might have. So in that case, I'm going to use a Montmut extra soft pastel because it was able to layer over the top better. Now I'm using a Caran d'Ache Neo pastel, and I'm just putting on basic background for the church of grey and shaping it with my colour shaper. There won't be a lot of detail in this church, hardly any in fact. It's just a case of getting the greys right. Side of the church is dark and one side of the church is lighter, and you just need to emulate that and just put the most minute detail into it. I used the white there just to lighten everything up a bit because I felt I'd gone a little bit too dark. This is a picture I've done previously in soft pastel, and you've probably seen the picture of that by now. It's a lot easier in soft pastel, but it's quite a relatively easy picture to do in oil pastel as well. It just, as with all oil pastels, just takes a little bit of thinking about to proceed and how you want to layer certain colours under other colours. what I'm doing now is I've a dark green grey, and I'm just layering a background for the trees. And at the top of the trees, I'm just letting the oil pastel just touch the surface of the paper, let the paper do some of the work for me, just taking off very light leaf-like shapes. And part of the trees will all be kind of blocked in with a dark green, grey, and then the darkest areas will be blocked in a black. And then I'll go over the top with the light colours. And the bottom there are obviously separate bushes and trees that are standing in front of the trees, or the main background trees. I'm just taking a little bit of time just to put little tiny dots and dashes at the top of the trees, and then just blocking the lower parts in. Now I'm putting some black areas into the darker green, just to show the really dark areas within the trees and the shadow size. And then just blending everything gently together with my colour shaper. And then going over with the cotton bud, because it fills all the areas a lot easier. Just adding in extra layers again, just to darken and detail everything up. So it's basically the same again, but of course it'll make everything a lot more opaque this time. Here I'm now at the beginnings of the field. I've got a little bit of black mark in there. It would cover, and I tried to get it out with the palette knife, but it will cover anyway, so it's not important. Just so you knew what that was. I took the lighter colour of the field and then went on to kind of known. And just blocking everything in. Very light, you can still see the paper through it. I've got a little bit of darker tone there, so it gives it some dimension. I'm just gently blending everything together. I'm just going along the bottom of the trees at the top of the field just to try and straighten that up. It doesn't have to be completely, utterly sharp and straight, because of course it's a cornfield in front of it. But it was just a little bit raggedy, so I'm just going over top of it, using blenders and all pastels and more just to bring it into a straight shape and make it look a bit more sensible. again reinforcing colour. Here I'm just filling another tree on the left hand side, sorry, the sky on the left hand side of the tree. So I'm just putting in a black base for the roofs of the barns, and any colours I put on top, I will do that. I will shade it all with a colour shaper, and the part of the brickwork I'll use like a terracotta colour, and if I need anything else I will show that and add that in with my colour shape. This is my more model to basically shape everything and then different a bit finer and shape parts. Now starting with the tree, and in much the same way as I did the background tree, block it in with green grey, put in a dark area black, but before I do that I will put in all detailed leaves, or not all leaves, but most of the detailed leaves. Unfortunately I missed out quite a lot of the video footage for some reason. So basically I backed the tree in with green, put in the darker areas, and then went over all the areas that I needed to, as in the background trees, the foreground trees, and the grasses were done in much the same way. I went over all them with all my lighter colours. I will show you all that in another video as we get to it. Now here I'm doing the foreground path slightly and adding in extra grasses, just highlights, pressing a little bit harder on the pastel, not too hard, but just enough to get enough pastel off to make the areas brighter, so it separates everything from the darker areas and makes it look like layers of grass or clumps of grass. The poppies literally were just a pastel point, which gave it a nice rounded look of a poppy in the appropriate colour. There are ways to get this even finer and even more detailed, but I would need to do the picture slightly bigger, and it's basically a little bit more advanced, so that will come in due course. But for the moment, I think this is quite a good look at how I basically build everything up by layering. When you're doing this sort of process, putting lighter colours on top of dark, it's best to frequently clean your oil pastel, because the pastel underneath, in this case the dark green grey, will adhere to your oil pastel, and it will just make your brighter highlights not so vivid and not so bright. So randomly and often clean your oil pastel as you go. Here I'm actually using my colour shaper just to highlight and define just separate pieces of blades of grass. Not too many, just a few here and there, just to show that they're separate, and it brings the green grey from behind to highlight the yellow part that's in front, and it makes it look like separate pieces of grass and gives it some form. So what I'm doing here now is just basically adding in flicks of green grey just to show some shadow areas, and then over the top of all this I will be adding in some white dots here and there, just texture, just to show that there's flowers growing wild. There'll be orange, there'll be white, and I will reinforce the poppies at some point and the cow parsley that's standing in the tree. But just basically keep manipulating it, keep moving it, but brighten up with the highlights afterwards, or you'll just make it into basically mud and you will lose everything and all the form that you've got. So I'm just going to let you watch to the end of the video now. I hope there's been some help there somewhere along the line, and I'm sorry about missing footage in the middle. I will try and do better next time. Anyway, just to say, have a good day, have a good year, and I hope we'll have a great, fantastic Christmas. Please look after yourselves and be kind. Take care for now. Bye.